The tragic shooting in Tucson more than just a week ago now has reignited the debate over gun control in this country. And even though the rampage occurred 2,500 miles from here, there are actually a number of New Yorkers on the forefront of the fight to keep guns out of the hands of dangerous individuals. My next guest is among them. Richard Aborn is the former president of the Brady campaign. That's a nonprofit named for Jim Brady, who was injured during the attempted assassination of Ronald Reagan in 1981. Richard is now teaming up with other advocates, including New York Congresswoman Carolyn McCarthy, to outlaw the high-capacity ammo magazines that were used in the Tucson shooting. He's joining me tonight from Washington. Richard, thanks very much for your time.
Happy to be here, Liz.
So you are actually coming from a press conference at which Carolyn McCarthy and others were discussing this bill that she is planning on introducing this evening in the House that would ban the high-capacity magazines, not the guns itself, but the high-capacity magazines that Jared Loughner used in Tucson. What do you think the outlook for this is, this piece of legislation?
I think it's quite good. There is a tremendous amount of anger in the country. People are actually bewildered that this man was able to lawfully buy these magazines that contain 31 bullets. They don't understand why the law permits that. And they're right to wonder that. When I was president of the Brady campaign, we actually banned these things in '93 and '94. We banned assault weapons and we banned large volume magazines. But that law had a 10-year sunset provision, and the Congress in 2004 allowed those weapons, including this kind of clip, back on the streets. So we need to ban them again, and this time we need to do it permanently. Okay,
let's assume there was a ban in place and it was illegal to purchase these magazines. Do we really think, though, that that would have prevented Jared Loughner from doing this shooting? I mean, he seems to be pretty intent on doing what he did.
Well, you're asking really two different questions, if I can split it.
Please.
Question one is, would he have done the shooting? Yes, there's a good possibility he would have gotten a gun and went out and done this shooting. But the question we're facing is, would he have been able to kill and injure so many people if he'd only had a regular gun with a regular magazine in it that would only contain 10 bullets? For sure he would have harmed people, but we wouldn't have had the carnage. And interestingly enough, in other shootings like this, where the shooter had a large magazine, that person's moment of mayhem, if you will, was stopped when they went to reload. In the Long Island Railroad shooting, when Colin Ferguson shot so many passengers, he was stopped when he went to reload. He had a large volume magazine. The same thing with Loughner in Tucson. He was stopped when he went to reload. So we need to limit the size of these magazines to 10 rounds, which is what it used to be, so that people bent on destruction don't have this much firepower.
You know, so Carolyn McCarthy, who in fact lost her husband in that shooting that you're speaking of on the Long Island Railroad, and also had her son was grievously injured, although he survived. She says specifically, and she was on the program with me just right after the shooting, this is not a gun control bill. She's very careful about that. She says, I like to use the word gun safety. Okay, that speaks to how difficult it is to get this kind of legislation through the Congress, really regardless of who's in charge. I mean, there was a Times story just when we were talking about all of this gun control that suggested that the likelihood of seeing anything, even this bill, which so many people like yourself say is fairly common sense, even that has a pretty dim outlook in some opinions.
Liz, we've been down this road before. When we got Brady through Congress and got the ban on assault weapons through Congress, people told us we would never, ever, ever get it done, that Congress was too hostile, it would be too tough. We are very used to fighting tough battles. And what we've seen in case after case after case is that if we can get the country speaking out, if we can get law enforcement, the clergy, advocates, victims, editorial boards, all beginning to demand this, that at some point becomes pressure that the Congress cannot resist. And that's exactly what we intend to do now. We're going to put together the same coalition that pushed Brady and the ban on assault weapons through Congress in '93 and '94. Again, when everybody said it could not be done, we're going to bring that same pressure to bear, and you watch, we'll get this done.
Richard, do you remember at the time that this was actually successful in the assault weapons ban, how much cash was spent on the campaign to push that through, roughly?
I don't. I do not remember that. But I can tell you that the NRA vastly outspent us. They've always been much better funded than we are, and we still were able to get that bill through. Now, it was a tough vote. We only passed it by 2 votes. That shows you how tough it was, even with the Democrats in control. So we think we face the same landscape. And again, that collective voice, that unrelenting pressure from the nation is what will make this pass.
Well, because, and I guess that's what I was getting at in terms of the fundraising, because there's a story out today, a really interesting story from the Center for Public Integrity that talks about how some of these high-capacity magazine manufacturers have poured millions of dollars into the NRA, and it's dubbed a roundup, which actually when a person purchases something, they ask those purchasers to round up their purchase, and then they send the difference to the NRA, and then that money is used for lobbying. Millions and millions of dollars. And on both sides of the aisle, no? So how do you counteract that? The public voice is one thing, but how do you counteract it? With a Facebook campaign, with a social networking effort, not just lobbying, obviously?
No, not just lobbying. We will use all the tools out there that political organizers use. We will use all the social media that you were talking about. We will use traditional grassroots organizing activities. We will build coalitions. We have very extensive internet outreach. We will be using that. Obviously, we'll be using extensive email and other outlets. I mean, there are just numerous ways you can organize, frankly, with not all that much money. And that's one of the great things that the internet does. In some ways, it equalizes the playing field. Sure, the money is important. And you certainly see where the manufacturers are putting their money. They're putting it into the NRA because they know the NRA will do their bidding. Now, curiously, the NRA has been silent on this bill so far. Now, either they're relying on their backers on the Hill to kill the bill, which I guarantee you is not going to happen, or they don't know what to say on this one. This one's actually a little different, Liz, than some of the other gun control fights that we've had, because this focuses strictly on the large volume magazines, those magazines that carry 32, 50, even 100 rounds of ammunition. It's very hard to argue that a sportsman, a hunter, or even a civilian who wants to defend himself or his family needs that many bullets. There's just no rational argument for it. So I think they're not quite sure what to say. Also, there's no way you're going to argue that the Second Amendment would stop us from banning these large volume magazines. Even one of the lawyers in the case where the NRA won their Second Amendment argument has said there's no Second Amendment barrier here. So I think on this one, if we can get a debate going, and we will, I think we win this.
Well, we're unfortunately out of time. I want to thank you very much, Richard Aborn, for coming in, because we're going to be watching this unfold in the coming months, I'm sure. Thanks a lot.
My pleasure.
Thanks so much, Richard.